Yeah, yeah. It's Lil Kenny Russell, Kanoom, Kansu Moon. Uh, it's time to get down to some business. Today I'm gonna do a thing called folklore. Folklore is like oral traditions and customs and things that we really think is factual. But there's one thing you need to know about folklore. Okay, we lost. Folklore is is a lot of man-made traditions and things that people just want you to understand is real. Folklore could be stemmed and based off some truth, but folklore a lot of times is just what it is. It's made up oral traditions. It never was historical, and that's what I'm dealing with today, just for your information. So I want to give a customarily honorary shout out that I do all the time to the master teachers. It's many. It's too many for me to name the ancestors before us. But I want to give the primary ones to the ones that I primarily always talk about. Those are the ones that affected me most. That's Dr. John Henry Clark. That's Dr. Yosef Ben Yakinen. That's John G. Jackson. That's Ivan Van Sertima. Uh, the list can go on and on. Like I say, El Haj Malik Shabazz, Malcolm X, um, Khalid Muhammad, and a special shout out to my master teacher, the father of my education, the way I do radical revolutionary research is Dr. Walter Williams. So again, let's get straight to it. We're gonna do a thing today called folklore, and the truth is unbelievable. The truth is more unbelievable than reality. So a lot of times it's best for people to give you folklore and fictitious tales and stuff that you adapt and bring into your life that you think is factual. And this is part one. This is folklore part one. I'm gonna do a couple of them so you can understand how far they're willing to go to drive this into you. That folklore is reality. So I'm gonna start screen sharing at this time. Good morning, good afternoon, good night, wherever you may be. And we're gonna get straight to it. It's time to screen share, baby. Okay. And here we go. This is the basis of what I'm gonna be doing today. This is called folklore. Okay. And I have the definition of folklore right here so that you can see it. And we're gonna read it together. You understand where I'm coming from? Folklore. Folklore is the expressive body of culture shared by a particular group of people. It encompasses the traditions common to the culture and subculture or group. These include oral traditions such as tales. See, that's like a lie. Not all the time, like I say. Some tales are based on reality. But when you say a tattletale or you just talking about a tale, a lot of times you're talking about things people made up. A tattletale is somebody telling on you for telling. It's not what I meant to put right there. But tales are tales, you know. Proverbs, this is biblical matter. So tradition, this is letting you know folklore is part of Proverbs, biblical things, and we're gonna go into that more in another episode. It's gonna be a little bit in this one as well, but it's a three-part series, trust me. And jokes. So in folklore, you got tradition. That's just like a oral tradition, a story, or something that we pass on from family to family. Oral tradition. I cook my hamburger like this, and I teach my kids hundreds and hundreds of times how to cook their hamburgers, and over centuries and hundreds of years, that becomes the traditional method of making a burger. Doesn't mean it's right. That's just the way we make our burgers. They include material, culture, ranking from traditional building style to handmade toys common to the group. Folklore also includes customary lore, the forms and rituals of celebrations, go all into all of this. such as Christmas and weddings. This is all folklore. Folk dances and initiation rites as folklore. Each one of these, either stingily or in combination, is considered a folklore artifact. Okay. Now, this is a quote from Dr. Walter Williams. It's called Facts. This is all I deal in. This is what I like to deal in. So if I'm talking about it on this page, I've went and searched further as I can to get you the facts on that subject. I'm not coming up in here with opinion or my own personal standpoint or some biasness. I don't have any religion. I practice spirituality, so I don't have any biasness towards any of these religions. So my hate, or you might say a hate for Christianity, a hate for Islam, it's none of that. I speak from an unbiased standpoint, and I deal with facts, which are stronger than arguments, more profound than reasoning, more dependable than opinion. Silences dispute, supersedes prediction, and facts always ends the argument, if you know the facts. Okay, tradition. I read you folklore. Now this tradition. It's a noun. The transmission of customs, beliefs from generation to generation. See? Or the fact of being passed on this way. Every shade of color is fixed by tradition and governed by religious laws. Tradition is all up in religion as well as folklore. So it's historical convention, unwritten law. See, it's not a law. It's oral. It's history, heritage, lore, folklore, old wives' tales. So an old wives' tales is some old lady just telling you a tale, whatever the case may be. That's what this is about. And you see how tradition has folklore in as well. Wow, I didn't put my watermark on all these pictures. I just thought of that because I just created this, but we're gonna rock anyway. This is about the Tooth Fairy, but I have these three people here because they all part of folklore. None of these people actually existed in human form, but they folklore stories that later became human beings when you took them into your subconsciousness and made them human. The Tooth Fairy is a fantasy figure of early childhood in Western and Western influence cultures. See, all of these are Western influence folklore creations and characters. The folklore states that when children lose one tooth, their baby teeth, they should place it under their pillow on their bedside table, and the tooth fairy will visit them while they sleep, replacing the lost tooth with a small payment. Okay? So you know about the Tooth Fairy, you know about Jesus the Christ, and you know about Santa Claus. And I made a post on my Instagram about how the Tooth Fairy and Santa Claus is more prominent than this Jesus. Jesus has never came in an actual personages to nobody we know and said, hey, come to the car lot with me. I'm Jesus. I'm finna deliver you to your car. And that has happened, and it's derived, and he took you right to a car and manifest a car. Never. Never in a personage, never. Nobody's never seen Jesus. This is supposed to be a spiritual type of thing, which is not. It's just an incarnated name and a bunch of lies. Now, the Tooth Fairy, nobody never seen her come in a personage neither. But the power is there because the kid, the figment of their imagination, I was affected by it too. Everybody was. That money is there, so that makes the Tooth Fairy real. Only way you know Jesus is real is going through church and let your kids see all this detrimental stuff going on to their mind. They don't know how to accept it, but they send people screaming, hollering, crying, but it's for the love of this Jesus. And Santa Claus is also more prominent than this Jesus. Because again, you go under the identity of this Santa Claus and give your kids gifts and put it in his identity and his name. So Santa Claus is bigger than Jesus. Santa Claus and the Tooth Fairy is bigger than Jesus to your children without you having to indoctrinate this Jesus person to them. Now, this is some old pictures of Santa Claus. This is from 1905, this particular picture here. And look like Santa Claus ain't caring about no giving no kids a gift. Say Puck on the top here. But if you replace that with an F, you see what he's trying to do here. See? That's what you can come on with. I didn't put this together. I don't even know what this means. I'm just letting you know that this fictitious character on here in 1905 does not look like he's interested in giving no kids no gift, okay? And this particular funny looking person is dressed up just begging for money, okay? So Santa Claus, also known as Saint Nicholas, Chris Kringle, father of Christmas, whatever the case may be, or simply Santa, is a legendary figure originating where? In Western Christian culture. So this is also a part of a religious type of thing, because you only get folklore and all that type of stuff, made up stuff in religion, who is said to bring gifts to the homes of well-behaved children on the night of Christmas Eve, the 24th of December, and the early morning hours of Christmas Day, the 25th. The modern Santa Claus grew out of tradition surrounding the historical St. Nicholas, a 4th century bishop and gift giver of Myra. Okay? The British figure of Father Christmas and the Dutch figure of Santa Claus, this is before Santa Claus, and he used to whoop kids' butt. He used to come and whoop their ass with like that Christmas tree when it get dry. He'd take that dry brush off the Christmas tree and whoop their ass, excuse my language, but that's just what he used to do. Himself also based on St. Nicholas. Some maintain Santa Claus also absorbed elements of the Germanic, this is German, Germanic god Woden, excuse me, who was associated with the pagan midwinter event of Yule and led the wild hunt, a ghostly procession through the sky. So all this stuff derives from a dark witch play. If you know about Woden and you know about Yule and the wild hunt, you would know these are the satanic type of things that you're celebrating, but you don't know this because you never researched it. Okay? Now here go the biggest incarnated name and fictitious folklore character in the world. That's this Jesus the Christ. Okay? Born in 4. Died around 33. See? We're almost in 2033. So in 2033, that'd be 2,000 years to the death of this fictitious character. Never, not one sighting nowhere. But you hear people saying they still see the honky tonk man, Elvis Presley, all that stuff. Not one sighting nowhere on the planet. Okay? Just nuts and people, religious nuts. I seen Jesus. I took a picture of Jesus and all these weird stories. Again, I just told you, he's never coming to personages to nobody and brought him something. You want a house? Bring Jesus to your realtor and go get you a $5-6 million house and Jesus will meet you there. No. They want bank records, bank statements. They want to see your job history. They want to see the job you have currently, how much you make, what you can pay to get qualified for that house. So Jesus and doing all this stuff. Look at Jesus. Jesus has never did nothing for nobody. Okay? Again, and I'm not speaking from no hatred type of place. No biasness anywhere. This is straight historical. So for me to kind of have a disclaimer, I'm not speaking against religious people. I'm just letting you understand folklore opposed to the truth. This stuff is folklore. Okay, Jesus of Nazareth, or Jesus Christ, was a 1st century Jewish preacher and religious leader. He is the central figure of Christianity. Most Christians believe he is the incarnation of God the Son. Okay, this is weird. And the awaited Messiah, the Christ. See, that's why I call him Jesus the Christ, because that's just a title. Jesus the Christ. His name is not Jesus Christ, but Jesus Christ. You don't even know his name. You don't even know his goddamn name, but Jesus Christ did this. Jesus, look at his name is Jesus the Christ. That's just a title. Wasn't no J until the 1600s. So you know it wasn't no man named Jesus right here in 4 BC. Okay? His name was Yahshua, or something like that, if I'm not mistaken, or Yahweh, whatever case may be. It's never been none of this, but they have to cover their tracks. Prophesied in the Old Testament. He's the Christ that they prophesied about in the Old Testament. Now, virtually all modern scholars of antiquity agree that Jesus existed. Okay, now these are people that do speak from biasness and what they own, what you call it, in mind. So if I'm Christian, I'm going to make sure, if I'm a scholar, I'm professing stuff that goes along the line with Christianity because I have such a devout belief in it. That's what this is about. So virtually all modern scholars of antiquity agree that Jesus existed historically. Okay, never been nobody historically named Jesus unless you'll have his bones. We don't need the story that he disappeared and walked off in his body, and you can't find his bones. Okay, although the quest for the historical Jesus has produced little agreement on the historical reliability of the Gospels. So they're saying that the Gospels is not even historical. Talking about the Synoptic Gospels, the New Testament, Matthew, Mark, and Luke. They always tell you John came later because it did. And on how closely the Jesus portrayed in the Bible reflects the historical Jesus. This is saying that a lot of the modern scholars believe that it was a historical Jesus, but a lot of the stories in the Bible is kind of far-fetched because they go into him being this supernatural human being. So instead of just getting rid of the story, say, no, nobody like this never existed. They want to hold on to some bullshit that this person actually walked around, but he just wasn't supernatural. So, I mean, you going to cut the shit or you going to keep it. And you really have to understand that. Jesus was a Galilean Jew who was baptized by John the Baptist. How would it be a John the Baptist historically? If it wasn't if it's a historical Jesus, how can you get a historical John the Baptist when he's just a fictitious Bible character just like this Jesus? Okay, so this is how it go on in bull crap, and began his own ministry. He preached orally. See, well, no Bibles in this time, but they tell you the Bible come around in BC, and was often referred to as rabbi. Jesus debated with fellow Jews. Was never no word called Jew until the Bible came out. You cannot get Jew until you get Abraham. On how to best follow God, engaged in healings, taught in parables, and gathered followers. He was arrested and tried by Jewish authorities, turned over to the Roman government, and crucified on the orders of Pontius Pilate, another fictitious character. The Roman prefect. After his death, his followers believed he rose from the dead. The community they formed eventually became the early church. Okay? So they started it off with folklore. And ain't nobody ever rose from the dead in the history of mankind. Okay? Christian doctrines include the beliefs that Jesus was conceived by the Holy Spirit. Okay? Again, if your daughter walked in and walked by a church and said she was pregnant by the Holy Spirit, first you're going to kick her in her ass, excuse me, and then you're going to put her out the house or ask her who raped her. Okay? And he was born of a virgin named Mary. He performed miracles, founded the Christian church, died by crucifixion as a sacrifice to achieve atonement for sin. All lies. Rose from the dead and ascended into heaven, from where he will return. Been 2,000 years, he ain't returned yet. But in the Bible it say scriptures like, if I don't return before this generation, the sky and the sun will fall out the sky. This stuff, religion develops insanity too. 1, 2, 3, and 4 is on my YouTube channel. Go look at them as well. Most Christians believe Jesus enables people to be reconciled to God. The Nicene Creed asserts that Jesus will judge the living and the dead, either before or after their bodily resurrection. An event tied to the second coming of Jesus, Christian eschatology. The great majority of Christians worship Jesus as the incarnation of God, the Son, the second of three persons of the Trinity. So he's of God, the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, all in one. But then on here, they break it down. He's just the Son and this, that, and the third. So they don't even know. They're not even too sure who the hell he is. A minority of Christians denominations reject the Trinitarianism. So they don't speak the Trinity, wholly or partly. as non-spiritual. The birth of Jesus is celebrated annually, December 25th. This is your Christmas, called Christ Mass, a Mass for Christ. Will never know a person named Jesus, or various dates in January by some Eastern churches. Christ's Mass, or Christmas, his crucifixion is honored on Good Friday, and his resurrection on Easter. Some more lies. The widely used calendar era AD from the Latin Anno Domini in the year of our Lord, and the equivalent alternative CE are based on the approximate birthday of Jesus. CE means common era. Now here goes some more folklore, okay? Because the Greeks, they hold everything they ever had is derived from folklore. There never been no great Europeans and Greeks, Romans neither. You see, they make their history up as they go, but they tell us our history start with slavery. They don't have any history, so they make it up as they go. This man can do all this. Gatekeeper of Olympias, god of strength, heroes, sport, athletes, health, agriculture, fertility, trade, oracles, and divine protector of mankind, Hercules. This is where later the fictitious man Hercules come from. This is him and a human being in person. Never been nobody like this, but in folklore and oral tradition, this person become real. Went out and made a statue of him. Never been nobody named Hercules or Hercules, okay? So this is a bit of information about him. Hercules, born Ecclesias, and all that old nonsense, see? So let's see. Was a divine hero in what? Greek mythology, the son of Zeus and Alcmena. These are two more fictitious people, okay? Foster son of Amphitryon. They just make names up. All this is fictitious Greek mythology. Greek don't have any history. There never been no great Greeks. He was a great grandson and half brother, as they are both seared by the god of Zeus. See, fictitious, of Perseus. He was the greatest of the Greek heroes. Okay, our paragon of masculinity, the ancestors of royal clans who claimed to be Heraclea, Heraclea, whatever this is. It don't make no difference. I'm letting you understand folklore, okay? This is folklore against the Scythianic monsters. So let's see. In Rome and in the modern West, he is known as what? Hercules, with whom the later Roman emperors, in particular Maximian and Commodius, all these Greek names that never existed, often identified themselves. Okay, so let's see. Okay, what is this information about? This is speaking about the Trojan War, which derives from Homer. Homer is the father of history for them. It never been nobody named Homer, and we're gonna get to that. So no one but Heracles' friend, Philocrates, are poets in some versions. They just make things up. Will light his funeral parade. In an alternative version, it is Lolois who lights the parade. For this action, Philocrates or Poes, all these names, okay? I'm going to be pronouncing them wrong, but bear with me. Received Heracles' bow and arrows, which were later needed by the Greeks to defeat Troy in the Trojan War. They're speaking about Achilles and all these special Greek bow and arrows that was needed in the Trojan War. It's never been no Trojan War. The Trojan War derives from the story from Homer, the father of their history. Okay, so we can go past this because this is all about the bow and arrows and things like that. So well let's read it. Philocrates Paris, confronted Paris and shot a poisonous arrow at him. The hydrea poison subsequently led to death of Paris. The Trojan War, however, continued until the Trojan horse was used to defeat Troy. Like in the movie, they pushed that horse in there. If you ever seen Troy with Brad Pitt. According to Herodotus, listen, Heraclius lived 900 years before Herodotus' own time. So he lived about 1300 BCE, before the Common Era, before Christ in BC. So Herodotus is telling us this, but this man, Heraclius, lived 900 years before Herodotus, and there's no solid proof that Herodotus ever existed. I got solid proof that he never existed. So how is he telling us a story about a 900-year-old folklore story? You understand where I'm coming from? This person, we don't even have any manuscripts from his time that lets us know that this person is historical, Herodotus. But he's telling a 900-year tale vividly. So you need to understand this is folklore or tradition, and just a lot of it is just damn flat out lies. Okay, now look, the Dark Ages. This is talking about European history. See, from 1100 to 750, they was completely in the dark. But if you go back here, they're telling us a story about a 1300 BC. See, Herodotus lived in about the 900s, 9th century, whatever the case may be, or 7th or 8th century, something to that tune. But right here, they was in the Dark Ages. So he's telling us you a story about a 1300-year-old story, but they was in the Dark Ages at this time. The period between the fall of Mycenaean civilizations and the readoption of writing, they never had no writing, the 8th or 7th century BC. After the Trojan Wars, the Mycenaeans went through the period of civil war. The country was weak. A tribe called the Iranians took over. Some speculate, there's no manuscripts, none. There's no Greek manuscripts from the time period. Never been no type of learning institution that ever come out of Greek in ancient times, in antiquities. Say that the invaders came in from the north with weapons, laid waste to the Mycenaean cultures. Other look to eternal descent, uprising, or rebellion, or perhaps some combination. So they don't know, they just putting things together, okay? Archaic period, so this is between 750 and 480. More practically 620. Look, just gapping it all out. More practically, this is the time. They talking about this archaic period started here, but it's saying now more practically, this is the time. So damn, is it more practically, or do you have evidence of any of these? They don't have evidence of any of these. Look it up. The age is defined through development of art, this time, especially through the style of pottery. No, they don't have any of this stuff, okay? You can date it however you want to. Just get the man that's going to date it, like William Fox or Albright. He dated the Dead Sea Scrolls. He dated the clay tablets, cuneiform tablets from the Babylonians and all that. He's speaking from a biased standpoint, and he was a Christian, so all that stuff has to be real, so he's speaking about it. Now this is who I was just speaking about, the person that tell you all these stories. This is Homer. Never existed in human form, just an incarnated name that they write to. Why do they do that? To give themselves some semblance of having some type of understanding and knowledge at the same time as the ancient Egyptians, because ancient Egyptians predate this by 10,000 years. But to have some type of educational thing going on, they say he was a philosopher, a great philosopher. Where's the books? Where's the manuscripts that show us that it was an institution that he learned from? He just woke up, knew all the knowledge in the world, and then he showed it to Socrates, Plato's, Pythagoras, and all this type of stuff. So this is more folklore, oral traditions, and all the rest of that nonsense. Roman bust of Homer from the 2nd century AD, okay? He's said to live in the 700 to 800 BC. Why we don't see no statues from that time? They don't have any hard evidence that this person ever existed. This is an incarnated name, portrayed with traditional iconography based on Greek original dating to the Hellenistic period. Hellenistic period is with Alexander the Greek. So Homer, okay, the legendary author of the Iliad and the Odyssey, two epic poems that are essential works. They don't have no original manuscripts from this neither. This come out about 1,000 years after his death of ancient Greek literature. The Iliad is set during the Trojan War. See, you don't know about the Trojan War only through this man's mouth, so we can disregard that. The 10-year siege of the city of Troy by a coalition of Greek kingdoms focuses on a quarrel between King uh, Agamemnon. These are all the rest of the people that he invented. None of this stuff never happened. And the warrior Achilles. Never been no Achilles. Okay, lasting a few weeks during the last year of the war. The Odyssey focused on the 10-year journey of Odysseus, king of, these are all the people, these are incarnated names. This stuff never happened. Okay? The study of Homer is one of the oldest topics in scholarship dating back to antiquity. Nonetheless, the aims of Homer's studies have changed over the course of the millennia. The earliest preserved comments of Homer concerns his treatment of the gods, which hostile critics such as the poet, I'm not going to try to pronounce these two people, okay, as immortal. The allegorist, this is a story, allegory, these are the lies and oral traditions again, is said to have defended Homer by arguing that the Homeric periods are allegories, okay? This is telling you stuff is lies. They had arguments about it. Was it real or was it fictitious? It's all fictitious, never been no Homer. The Iliad and the Odyssey were widely used as school texts in ancient Greek and Hellenistic cultures. They were the first literary works taught to all students. The Iliad, let's just go on, okay? The Homer epics are written in artificial literary language of whatever this language is. It's supposed to be like the original language, but they never had no language or alphabet. Only used in epic poetry. Homeric Greek shows features of multiple regional Greek dialects and is fundamentally based on iconic Greek, keeping the tradition that Homer was from. Just go over and say where it's from. We don't need that. So now I'm going to show you the founding of Rome. Let me go back. Homer comes out about the 7th, 8th century, okay? So this is for Greek and Roman history. Rome come a little bit later, but the Greeks and Romans are pretty much one and the same. This is how Rome was founded. This says the founding of Rome. Now let me read you the story because they put this together. I don't have to put this together, but they want you to have some semblance that these were of a civilized people. Do this picture right here, when you see it, does this icon or this imagery gives you some semblance that these people are of an advanced, civilized culture? No. This is two twins, okay? This is a wolf sculpture, the she-wolf, feeding the twins, Romulus and Remus, the most famous image associated with the founding of Rome. This come right off. You can go research this yourself. Founding of Rome, just type it up. The tale of the, see tale? They know how to use words. You're not going to look and do no research on this stuff. But I am. I bring it straight to you. The tale of the founding of Rome is recounted in the traditional stories handed down by the ancient Romans themselves as the earliest history of their city. So they invented this. The terms of legend and myth. See? In terms of legend and myth. I'm sorry, I just told you that the European don't have any history, so he bring you mythology. And the first time you see them start using this Greek mythology. That's what it's called. Myth. That's the first part. That's the key word in mythology. Myth. See? The most familiar of these myths, and perhaps the most famous of all Roman myths, is the story of Romulus and Remus, twins who were suckled by a she-wolf as infants in the 8th century BC Another account of the another account set in early time claims that the Roman people are descended from Trojan War. Okay, so that would be about the 1300s, as we seen earlier. Hero Aeneas, who escaped to Italy after the war, and whose son Lullus was the ancestors of the family of Julius Caesar. The archaeological evidence of human occupation of the area of modern-day Rome, Italy, dates from about 14,000 years ago. Well, you know that's a lie because I just showed you in 1100, even Greek and Greece come before Rome. It's all Europe, but they just said it was in the Dark Age, okay? So I'm going to show you that. That's the end of it. I'm going to show you that, though. I'm going to go back to this slide and say whatever in Dark Age at. This said 14,000 years ago, okay? Let me pull this back up for you because I want you to see it. This is 1100 to 750 BC. So let's say I take 1100. That's 1100 plus what the year is today because these count down. So I count the whole 1100 down. That's 1100 plus 2019. That'd be 3,119. See? That's it. That's as far as back as it can go. It was in the Dark Age. But this says, the last one says 14,000 years ago. I'm sorry, I closed it too fast. This says 14,000 years ago. So again, you need to understand folklore, tradition, incarnated names, lies, and just flat out damn lies. Let me get back to myself. Let me stop screen sharing. So you need to know about oral tradition, you need to know about folklore, you need to know about flat out damn lies. And I showed you all three today. Some of it is folklore, some of it is oral tradition, some of it is fictitious, and some of it is flat out goddamn lies. See? And religion is caught up in all of them. See? You really have to understand that. So I want you to understand that this was part one of folklore. I'm going to be bringing you 3 parts to this. And I'm going to show you how, as we advance, I'm going to dig into a little bit more of religion. I'm going to show you how the European incarnates a name that he want to use and write through for strict purposes of giving themselves some semblance that they were here prior to great things going on, because it was great civilizations going on before the European. But he wants to be the prototype, typical prototype advanced man of today's time. He don't want anything in an advanced type of process to be advancing without him being on the planet. But history shows that these people are the newest people to the planet. See? When you start digging up history, you're going to find out that you're going to find black first, and this is not to be racist. You're going to find the brown people, the people of India. And then you're going to find the last people, the European, the white race. See? And then I can go further than that. You're going to find the black, going to find the brown, going to find the yellow, the Asian, all that type of stuff. And then you're going to find the European. So this is not, again, I want to put a disclaimer, this is not disrespectful language. I'm talking about archaeological finds, I'm talking about historical aspects, I'm talking about scientific data, all that rolled up into one, with me just using the strict discipline of history, time, people, places, and events. And then you have to have literature to have been able to take notes and take record of what's going on as we orally speaking it. See? Only one type of civilization was doing that, and that was the ancient Egyptians. They tell you about the Babylonians and all that who wrote before them on clay. Come on now. That stuff was just invented. They invented that. They had they had William Foxwell Albright to date it to the right time period, which again, he was speaking from a biased standpoint because he was Christian and all that stuff needed to work like the Bible say. So he dated it to that time. Like when they found the Dead Sea Scrolls, you can look at them now. They're straight fakes. You can go on the internet and they'll tell you they're fakes. But William Foxwell Albright put his stamp on it. He was an archaeological person. He was an archaeologist. He put his stamp on it and dated it to that date of Jesus and all that, giving them some semblance that Jews and this word Jew was in that part of town, when all that is Northeast Africa. There's no such thing as a Middle East. So we're going to get down to that too in folklore. So I thank you for being with me. I'm right up under the time. I wanted to do 45 minutes in and out. So I thank you. This part one. Have a good day. Yay, yay. It's Lil Kenny Russell, Kanum, Contour Moon. If it didn't happen then, it can't happen again. I'm here for your superior awareness. And it's wartime. We're in the war zone. This is the wrath of an African revolutionary. And you won't get this nowhere else. Simple as that. We out. Thank you.